In this video, we're going to be taking a look at how to go about rhinestoning a script style font. Now, I get this question a lot, so what I thought I would do is just create this little video that shows you how I go about doing it. So let's go ahead, and I guess what we're going to do is 2021. We'll pick a font here, and it's going to be a script style font. Let's do something like this. All right, now let's set our size and let's make it about the size for a graduation cap. So I'm just going to put it 8 inches wide, and we'll go ahead and go and stone this design. Now, this is the process that I'm going to show you is a process that I would use as someone who doesn't know anything about rhinestone design. So we've bought a particular piece of software. It doesn't really matter what software we're using. I believe what I'm going to show you could be duplicated in just about any rhinestone software out there. Now there are some things that are unique to EasyStone that will make this process a little bit easier. But like I said, I think just about anyone could copy along with this particular technique, no matter what rhinestone software we were using. When I'm doing rhinestone design, what I'm concerned about is the final product. I'm not concerned necessarily about speed in making the design, as I want a very nice looking design. Now I can tell you, based on lots and lots of experience in rhinestone design, that there isn't any software program out there that is going to take this particular font or any font like this, a script style font like this, and produce a design that I would like by pushing a magic button over here. You might get some type of design, but it wouldn't be something that I would be excited about putting on a t-shirt, or in this case, a graduation cap. So I'll go ahead and show you the process that I would go about using. So the first thing we're going to do is stone the number 1. And what I would do is I would take my original artwork and right click and choose lock object. And then I'm going to go ahead and drop a rhinestone down. I'm going to be using an SS10 rhinestone. And then I'm going to take that and copy it up here. And then I'm going to select those 2 stones and add a bunch of stones in between. So that's a function of the software. Now I'm going to select all those stones and I'm going to copy just manually, just like that. So you can see there, well, pretty straightforward up to this point. Now I'm going to go ahead and select all these stones and delete them. Now this is where my designer part of me comes into play. I'm going to move this stone up closer to the original artwork. Come down here, select all those stones, right click on D here. This is a special function of EasyStone that will space all of those stones for me automatically. Now you can see this little hook. I'm going to change that to an SS6 stone. I'm going to create a 10 and a 6. Now I am going away, deviating from the original artwork a little bit, as you can see, but that's part of the design process, that you can deviate a little bit from the original artwork because we're kind of taking a bit more control over the finished result here. We're going to get the look of the original artwork for the most part, but it's not going to be exactly the same. Okay, we do a 6, a 6, a 10, and a 10, and a well, let's go ahead and use a 10. What the heck? What the heck? So you can see I'm going to go with a 6 at the very tip. And I'm going to go ahead and go with a couple of 6s there. Again, deviating from the original artwork just a little bit. But that takes care of our number 1, and let's just throw a box around it so you can see it by itself. So stylistically, you can see it looks good. The stone spacings are good. It does look like the original design, the original script font, but you can see how easy that particular one was. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated in the number 2. And again, what I want to show you here is a process that anyone can use with about any rhinestone software out there, I believe. So let me show you. So we've started with an SS10 stone right here, and now we're going to create the tail of our tube. And the way we're going to do that here in CorelDRAW is we're going to just take our stone and move it, and then hit the space bar, space bar, space bar, space bar, space bar. I'm going to deliberately do some overlaps because I want to show you some things here. Space bar, space bar. So we do not care about the spacing. Do not stress yourself. You can see what we're doing. We're moving those stones right along the edge of our artwork, right? Anyone can do that. That's not complicated whatsoever. Now we have a situation where we have all these stones along, but they're not equally spaced. Well, we have a function in EasyStone that makes that process quite simple. So we'll use our freehand pick tool here in CorelDRAW. Select that end stone there, right click on D, and that will take care of all of our rhinestone spacing. Okay. Now, when we're doing rhinestone design, sometimes we create a container, and sometimes we work from the outside in, sometimes we work from the inside out. Let's talk about making a container. So we're going to grab a SS6 stone, 6 stone, 6 stone, switch over to a 10 here, a 10, and we're going to make a container. So there we go. That's our container. You can see there, we've created that container. Now we know how to fill that container. So what I would do is just come in here, kind of do the same process as we did previously. We're just dropping in some stones. I am going to switch that to a 6. And there we go. Okay. But now you can see it doesn't really quite look like it should look. So we got to refine it a little bit. And that often is the case. Just depending on exactly what kind of look you're going for. And we want that stone spacing nice and even. So I'm just going to make a couple of little changes here. And I think I'm going to switch that to a 6 maybe. Add a 6 there. And so stylistically we changed it up just a little bit. But now you can see there's a tail of our tube. Okay. So now we want to kind of do the same thing with the rest of our tube. So we're just going to come out here. Now, just to show you, we don't have to do it the exact same way. We can select two stones, and we have these control points where we can modify our path. So we don't have to click and click and click and click and just make a bunch of copies of stones. We can string a whole thing of stones along. And then we can, like in this case, I think we could probably add a stone to our spacing if we wanted to, and that just speeds the process along a little bit. So here's a 6, a 6. We can nudge that over a little bit if we don't quite have the room. So here we don't have the room for another 6, so we've got some choices. We can make that a 6. That's one option. Or we could make this a 10 and squeeze that in a little bit if we wanted to do something like that. So you've got options on which way to go there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and come all the way up top here. You can see what we've created. We just created this path. Go into wireframe mode so you can see this a little bit better. And like I said, once you kind of get more familiar with the tools and how they work and all of that, you'll find that your rhinestone design process is a lot easier, okay? So you can kind of see what we're doing here. Let's go ahead and add in these points of our 2 here. Gotta go ahead and delete that, I think. Delete this one, I don't think we really need that. Come down here. Maybe we'll switch it around a little bit. Something like that. All right, so now we can go ahead and continue on. I think right here at the top, we're just going to use 2 6s. 6s, 6s, and then maybe switch over to 10s and 6s as our artwork gets wider there. Now we're going back to that original technique where we were just making several duplicates along that outside edge. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of those stones along that outside edge and space them apart evenly. Okay, and now we have a decision to make here in Easy Stone as to how we're going to get that extra width. You can see how the 2 gets a little bit wider and then a little bit wider. So you can see what we did there. We just made a row of 6s, and that gave us our space that we needed to fit that 6 into place there. We might have to make this a 6. Might even have to make that one a 6. And that will get us that little bit of extra width that we needed. And then that we could probably switch back to a 10. So now what we got to do is just change the spacing. So we're going to do the same thing as we did before. We're going to select all those outside stones, but now we've got some 6s and 10s in the mix. Sort all the spacing. So now you can see that outside edge is perfectly spaced. Now let's do the inside the same way. And then once you have that done, if we want to space those evenly, even though they're pretty close to the way they are. And now we can do the outside part of our 2. I think what we're going to do here is just go back to the old tried and true method. Let's go ahead and space those apart. We can come over a little bit farther if we want to. That's not going to hurt anything. And here, even though it's a little bit wider, it almost could use a 3rd stone. I'm going to make an executive call there and not put in a 3rd stone width. So we're just going to do 2 stones wide. We're going to pick those inside cornerstones there and space all of them all the way down. Now watch those. All that gap right there will be picked up between all of those stones. And there we have it. So let's go ahead and take our, I'm going to use our freehand pick tool, I guess. Let's go ahead and take that over to our other 2. Let's select everything that we've got going on now. Let's delete that. And let's just see what we have now. And so that's what we're left with at the moment. So you can see it's very close to what the original design was. The stone spacing is nice and spot on. It's just a really good, sharp look at design. So let's go ahead and finish this out right here. So again, kind of like we did with our 2, we'll just start with some 6s there. Let's come down here. And then we can kind of just start in here. Now I'm going to almost immediately switch over to 10s. Come up here. And do a 6 and a 6, and then boom, switch over to 10. All right. Switch over to 10 here. Now we're going to go ahead and make a path of stones that we can manipulate. So you can see that path that we're manipulating. And then you can see here, we're going to do the same thing. So it starts out thin, but it's gradually going to get wider and wider and wider, right? So we're going to switch over to 6s and 10s. So you can see how now we've got 6s and 10s going on. Let's go ahead and connect those two. This is again where we've created this container. And let's just start up here. So we've created this container that we have to fill. And eventually, we're going to get to the point where it's a little bit tight. So we'll switch over to 6s. Now, what do we do here? Well, here what we can do is we could do 6. We can do 6. We can do 6. And that will get us a 6 in there. Let's go ahead and add another 6 and a 6. And so now we've filled our container as well on this side. But we've got these overlapping stones. So we're going to go to our freehand pick tool and pick up all these stones on the outside edge, like so. And again, that you'll get better at that, Corel Draw function. And then you can see now everything's beautifully spaced. We're going to do the same thing with our inside stones. It looks like we've got one stone we did not consider. Oh, let me back up here. What do we got going on here? Okay, so it looks like we got a couple of stones that we did not pick up for whatever reason. So let's try that again. So we've got, tell you what, let's go ahead and add one more. I think we're going to need it anyhow. All right, let's try this again. So we're going to pick up all of our inside stones. When you're making your selections like that, sometimes it's a good idea to change the color of them so you can visually see that, yes, we've got what we wanted selected before you go about spacing them. I don't know what happened there, but we're going to do that again. It does happen sometimes. I don't know why. We're going to change the color again. So yes, we have just what we wanted selected. What are we selecting there? Something we're selecting. Let's go to wireframe mode. Ah, I see. We've got a path hidden there. I did not see that. So that was conflicting when we were making that selection, that freehand selection. It was selecting that path in the process. So usually when something goes amok, there's a reason for it. And that was the reason. So we've made our selection of our stones. We verified. Aha, we missed one. See that? So now we know that that one wasn't selected. So now when we space those stones, you can see everything is properly spaced. Okay. And then we had a couple that we're touching. It's good just to touch those up a little bit if you can. It's not absolutely mandatory, but why not? Okay. All right, now we have the other side to do. And the other side, we're basically going to do the same process. Go ahead and create our container. When we're doing this, we can actually add nodes to that path. And then when you add a node, it gives us another set of control points. So if you don't feel like you have control, you can always add more control points. That's just add another node, then you get an extra set of control points. So you can really manipulate that path exactly the way you need it to. And then we can add additional stones, take stones away. That creates our outer path. So you can see here we're going to do 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 10. So now we can create our inner path, or our inner, not really our inner path, but our inside wall, if you will. And then what we have to do then is we just have to fill that area. Let's go to wireframe mode. Okay, so now we have to fill this leftover area. We can do that pretty easily to a certain point. So 10, 10. Go ahead and leave it a gap there. That's perfectly acceptable for right now anyhow. So here you can see it's a little bit tight. So we'll just make it so it's not quite so tight. See there? Okay, I think we'll go ahead and change that so it's not quite so tight again. This we can leave as a 10. And now I think we can leave that as a 10. Go ahead. I'm just creating this wall, just a little bit as a visual helper here. Now we can go back to 10s. Okay, so now that we have our inside and outside walls, now it's time to go ahead and grab our freehand selection tool. Get our spacing. Now something's happened here. See this weird thing that's happened up here? Something happened there, and I don't know why, other than to say there's something wrong with the artwork. So let's go into wireframe mode. Aha! There is something wrong. We have a bloody path. We're not supposed to have those paths. So now we'll go back into our freehand pick tool. We'll pick up all those outside stones again. Now we'll go back into regular view. Good idea to make sure we got selected what we want selected, and we do. So that takes care of the outside wall. Let's go ahead and freehand pick the inside wall. Good idea to make sure we have just what we want selected, and we do. Sort out the outside wall. And that will give us an opportunity now to sort out the inside wall. Row. Not really a wall, is it? And right click on D And now the inside's taken care of. So you can see a very straightforward process. Yes, takes a little bit of maneuvering and manipulating of stones, but the end result we get is exactly what we were after. So just to conclude, I would check that there are no overlapping stones, and there isn't. And so ta-da, that is our finished rhinestone design. So you can see any script font is easy to do if we just kind of follow that process along. And I would encourage you to watch our other video on other script fonts. Just watch as many as you can. We have a bunch of different ones involving script fonts because it's something you're going to do on a day-to-day basis. When you get good at it, it's very automatic, and you'll ultimately achieve some really excellent results. Thanks for watching.